Iron Horse Taproom on 7th Street by the Capital One Center in DC. Man, what a great place that was. Kurt Large and I had partnered in Rocket Bar up the street, a little north of the Capital One Center. We felt that there was pretty much room for another pre-game, post-game bar. And I'm a big motorcycle guy. I've been riding them my whole life. And I thought, well, let's do a motorcycle bar. And then as I was trying to figure out names, it made sense to give a nod to the Iron Horse Music Hall in Northampton, Massachusetts, where I'd worked when I was in my 20s in 1986. So Iron Horse Taproom was born, and I went about trying to find motorcycles, and it was kind of fun. I found vintage 1970s Triumph that we displayed up in a lit orange box. It looked great. We put a BSA in the window, another 1960s BSA that was fantastic, a 650. And then I found a bunch of old Hondas, found a 1960s Honda Dream, another 1960s Honda 165, little sort of city bike, and then a Honda 360 that had this gorgeous gold flake tank. It was just kind of great to hunt these things down, and I got to ride each one. And then we displayed them. Billy Colbert, our designer extraordinaire, came in and he started, kind of rubbing his magic fingers together and came up with some great ideas. He put a collage on the bar, which we covered with Ultra Glow that was great. He also took these old motorcycle helmets and he'd go out front and he'd get people to put them on. And they were like 1960s gold fleck motorcycle helmets, and then he cut their heads out. He blew them up and cut their heads out and put them in sort of dimensional display on one wall. It looked so cool. Billy was such a master. On the way downstairs, there was a rack of old motorcycle tires as if it was like a, sort of a pit stop area. Iron Horse probably was one of the best ones that he's designed. One of the funny things that happened, or not so funny things that happened during construction, is you sign a lease, you move in, you start constructing, and a concrete slab, which we had on the ground floor, is usually maybe 5 inches thick. So we started chipping away because we needed to run a drain pipe about 75 feet across the room. And we kept chipping and chipping and chipping, and we couldn't reach the bottom. Come to find out, this was a monolithic slab, which meant the basement slab was something like 3 feet thick. And beneath it was the metro, so what could go wrong? So we ended up having to slot through solid concrete a drain line that ended up being about 2.5 feet deep. We'll never forget my guys. It was like we were running a underground mining operation and they just hammering, chipping. Probably cost us an extra 15 or 20 grand to get that drain line in. But, you sort of take the punches as they come, and in that case, that was probably the toughest part of that build. It was just a ton of fun building it, and with my team, Jimmy Fowler and Chris O'Connor and Chris Biebel and Angel and Eber and Walter, all the guys who were just from bar to bar to bar, make it joyful and fun to build them. Jerry Thomas, our electrician at the time. Oh my God, Jason, our plumber. We just had so much fun putting that one together. Once it opened though, Iron Horse became a neighborhood favorite. We were definitely the go-to bar for service industry, so other bartenders and servers at restaurants and hotels nearby would come in and be our customers afterwards. We didn't serve food. And as I say over and over again, food kills. And not all food kills, but a lot of times using that square footage and creating a kitchen and having to staff a kitchen and serve, if you're not going to serve great food, it's just exhausting. And we realized we're surrounded by restaurants once again, and we could just bring in food from the outside. Our liquor license allowed us to really just serve like peanuts and popcorn. And so that's what we did. There was one moment out front where McGruff the crime dog was next door for something at the crime museum, and he's standing out front, and Daniel, our manager, ran out and he got a big shot of him with McGruff the crime dog. And something about that kind of showed the energy and the fun of the place. And Iron Horse was steady, profitable, and then one day it wasn't. And what was the thing that caused it to go under? I don't know. We started in 2010 and it went strong. Just before the pandemic, we decided it was time to refresh it, and we teamed up with Ryan Selbach and turned it into the Boardwalk. And that was a much lighter theme. It was actually starting to get traction and then hit a brick wall when the pandemic came, and we just never could recover from that. And that was the end of Iron Horse Taproom. I was really surprised when it died. I didn't think that place would stop. I felt as if it had wheels and that it could just keep on keeping on. But all of these places have a time limit. They really do. If you really want them to last forever, you got to own the real estate. And even then, forever is a long time. And I don't think it's realistic to think that these places are going to go more than a generation, maybe two. Iron Horse Taproom, a great run, a fun bar, lots of enthusiasm while it was there, and now people walk down the street and they have no idea that that was an awesome bar that used to be there. I'll tell you one funny last story about it. So my business partner, Peter Bain, was riding his motor scooter. He had a little 49cc scooter that he had bought, and he got pulled over by a cop who hates scooters, it turns out. And it come to find out that you do have to have a license plate on a 49cc scooter. And so the cop locked up Peter, took away his shoelaces, his belt, his wallet, everything, sent him down to the lockup downtown, which is about 6 blocks from Iron Horse, on a Friday. And they were like, okay, you're probably not going to get out till Monday. Peter is just like, what are we doing here? I mean, the guy hated scooters and just dropped the freaking hammer on him. And so Peter's down there, he's in a cell. He said the worst thing about being in jail is that darn stainless steel toilet. And eventually they kicked him out. They didn't keep him all weekend, and he got out, but they had left all his stuff up at 2D when they transported him downtown. Kind of a sort of a FU from the cops, like tough shit, pal. So he gets out, his pants are falling down, his shoes are coming off, he has no money. He's downtown, so he walks over to Iron Horse. The door guy says, ID, please. Peter said, I don't have an ID. The cops took all my shit. And he held up his hand with his prison bracelet. The guy said, I've been there. Come on in. Peter came in and saw Murad, our great bartender, and said, Murad, I need a shot of Jameson, a beer chaser, and $20. All of which he received at Iron Horse, a safe refuge. And really, Iron Horse was representation of all of those great bartenders who were there. And they built the culture, they built the crowd. Another great story is Daniel Williams, our manager, refused to serve light beer. Kurt and I were insistent, you have to have light beer. I mean, sure, we have a great beer menu, but some people just want light beer. And he said, I won't do it. On principle, I will not serve it. We insisted. So Daniel, being Daniel, puts light beer on the menu. The description says, light beer, like water, but worse, and he charged $11 a draft for it. And he actually sold some, which was really funny, but that was his way of putting us in our place and letting us know that, yeah, we were the owners and we built the thing, but he was running it, and he was right. 9 out of 10 times he was, but I'm not gonna give him the clean sweep. Loved Iron Horse, wish it were still there. Billy designed great, the logo was great, and we had great hoodies and t-shirts and sweatshirts, and we're definitely gonna bring those into an online store that represent all these old bars and all these old logos, and hopefully that's coming soon. Another tale of Dawson bars. May she rest in peace, Iron Horse. Until next time, see you here.